as you can tell, it's March, and Randy's ready to go with the Irish Eyes here. Look at this. Getting ready for St. Paddy's Day. It's the Boomer Music Experience, the March edition. Randy always gets ready, always dresses up, always plays the part. And today, Randy is going to educate me on the Irish Rovers. Isn't that right, Randy?
Right on, Dave. Dave, what are your recollections of the Irish Rovers? How do you know the Irish Rovers?
Ooh, now he's putting me on the spot. All right. Here's what I know about the Irish Rovers. I believe both my grandmothers had an Irish Rover album. And I remember the Unicorn song as a kid. I remember hearing that, and I thought that was a really cool song. And I think later on in my teenage years, wasn't that a party? Which I think everybody knew that it was the Irish, the Irish Rovers. But I don't have an inkling about how they got started. I think they started in Toronto on something I had read, but I'm ready for the Randy Helmo Irish Rover education. Bring it, Randy.
Well, just a few facts here, Dave. The Irish Rovers, a group of Irish musicians, they originated in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. They formed in 1963, and they were named after the traditional song, The Irish Rover.
Okay.
And they're best known for their international TV series, contributing to the popular Irish music in North America. And for example, for songs like The Unicorn, and it was February of 1968 that The Unicorn was #1 on the Billboard Top 100 here in North America.
Did not know that.
Now,
wow.
And we're February now, 2022, and even today, The Unicorn by the Irish Rovers still gets attention big time.
Cool. That's really cool.
The primary voices, Dave, heard in the group's earlier songs were Mill Millar, he was a tenor, Jimmy Ferguson, great baritone voice, George Millar and Joe Millar, and they all contributed. And Wilsel McDowell, he played a mean button accordion, big time. And the accordion, that button accordion, has been the signature sound of the Irish Rovers for more than 50 years. The signature sound of that accordion. Now, in the 1980s,
in the 60s, then were they more of, obviously hearing the Unicorn song, were they more of a folk band? Is that kind of what they were?
Yes, I would. Very true, Dave. They were more of a folk band, like the early 60s. We saw Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Okay.
Along that line there. And in the 1980s, the group briefly renamed itself the Rovers. Okay. Now, during this period, Wasn't That a Party? Wasn't That a Party? Great song.
Remember that? Huh?
That led to what they call in the music industry as a crossover song. The crossover song, because it was popular with the rock genre, but it was also just as popular with the country genre. So hence, crossover success both in country music and rock music. Now, the Irish Rovers have represented Canada at 5 World Expos, and in 2018, they were honored as one of Ireland's greatest exports at Dublin, and that would be Ireland's EPIC, the Irish Emigration Museum. And that was just 2018, just a few years ago.
So they all those guys left Ireland and came and settled in the Toronto area, and that's where the band formed, I guess. Then, eh?
Right on, Dave.
Okay,
right on. And the brothers, George Millar, Will Millar, they were born in Northern Ireland. The children grew up in a musical household. Their father, Bob, he played the button key accordion, and I've I play a mean piano accordion, 120 bass. I learned back decades ago, but that's easy to learn, much easier than trying to learn a button key accordion. The difficulty and the level of learning those two accordions, it's the difference between night and day. Believe you me.
Wait a minute here. Now, you've never told me that you have an accordion. You never told me that you know how to play an accordion. Is this true?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I sold my accordion, and now I'm regretting it. It was a 120 bass Scandelli accordion, and George Romanek from Waterford, Ontario, he taught us. Now, I'm dating myself on this a bit. I'm going back to the year of 1959, 1960. But
Dang.
I remembered my lessons well, and George was the best accordion teacher anywhere, bar none.
So I'm going to have to put the call out while we're on this show. If somebody has an accordion, shoot me an email, editor@hubmedia.gmail.com, and we'll get Randy to play the accordion. We got to find him one. Now, see, now you've opened this whole can of worms. This is why you wanted to do the Irish Rovers, so you could, exploit your accordion talents, is it not? Yes.
You got it, Dave. Right on. So
that's pretty cool, Randy. I gotta admit, that's really cool.
Now, getting back to the earlier years of the Irish Rovers, the Irish Rovers, the name was suggested by George's mother. The traditional Irish song about a sailing ship that had been a favorite from their kitchen parties in Northern Ireland for many, many years. And so George's father, Bob, he became the Irish Rovers' first manager, booking the new band at folk song festivals, clubs, hootenannies, and the Port o' Call. Now, according to a 1964 newspaper article in Millar's hometown in Ireland, the folk singing boom in the United States and Canada, okay, this is early 60s, proved very profitable for these three young Irishmen who formed the nucleus of the Toronto-based group who called themselves the Irish Rovers. Now, in the early 60s, Will Millard and his friend Brian Evans performed in a Toronto Calypso group called the Calypso Qs. Now, after moving to Calgary, Will Millard formed a folk trio in Calgary along with another Ulster native, Derek Swinson. He also developed quite a following singing at Phil's Pancake House and then landing a job singing on Calgary's Just for Fun, which of course was a local TV show for children. How good is that?
Wow, these guys, yeah.
Calgary.
It's always amazing the routes these musicians take, isn't it, to get to the pinnacle?
Oh, it sure is. It's a wonderful journey of professionalism and music at its best. In 1964, after more than 6 months performing in the Toronto area, George and Jimmy left to visit Will in Calgary. And in 1979, Jimmy told the Canadian Music magazine, "We actually formed the group in Toronto, Ontario, Canada." That's very important to note because they did a lot of concerts in Calgary also.
Okay.
And of course, George, he played guitar at the time. Joe was playing a little button key accordion. Here again, that button key accordion. Those were ambitious days for the Irish Rovers. They played the clubs to death in Toronto. After that, they didn't know which direction they were going. So what they did, they decided to visit Will in Calgary. And they ended up staying there. And the Irish Rovers became 4.
Oh.
And Joe moved his family out of Toronto, and the band continued in Calgary. Now, George, Dave, he was enrolled in a local Calgary high school, and Jimmy worked at a local Calgary slaughterhouse. Now, Jimmy's job would last but a few hours. George soon quit school, and Will's home became the new home base for the Irish Rovers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Irish Rovers, they became regulars at Calgary's Depression Coffee House, a folk club operated by John Urin that also contributed to the start, ready for this, to the start of Joni Mitchell's career.
Did not know that. Wow.
Now, Will introduced the group to his manager, Les Weinstein, who became the band's full-time manager, while Will became the band leader. The Rovers drove to California. The year was 1966, and hoping to perform in the folk clubs there. On the way, their car broke down near an Italian restaurant, which was owned by two Irish immigrants in Northern California. How good is that? So the boys were given room and board and an introduction to Jan Bren, who was a booking agent and who helped the Irish Rovers secure an appearance at the Purple Onion in San Francisco. And they played sold-out houses there in San Francisco for 5 months.
Perfect.
And of course, the group also booked other folk clubs around California, but this was key. The Purple Onion in San Francisco. Sold out houses for their bookings for 5 months straight.
Isn't it amazing how luck just plays such a part in all this?
That is incredible.
Like it's just the Irish, luck of the Irish right there, right? There you go.
Yep. Now, also in 1966, the Rovers signed a recording contract with Decca Records. And of course, Decca Records in the 60s and 70s, more so the decade of the 60s, though, huge record company. Very, very good record company. If you got on with Decca, you were with the cream of the crop. So they got on with Decca Records and Charles Dant, and they recorded their first album. It was called The First of the Irish Rovers at the Ice House in Pasadena. Now, the album was successful enough to warrant another album, which included their first hit, recorded in 1962, and originally, The Unicorn, okay? And it didn't have a lot of success back then, The Unicorn. It was later on in the decade of the 60s, February 1968, that it hit #1 on the Billboard Top 100.
Hey,
and guess who played guitar
first?
for the original recording
I
of
don't
The
know.
Unicorn?
Who?
The late Glenn Campbell.
I did not know that.
Country superstar.
Man.
Wow.
It was that. And that first album they did, the one, the Ice House, I believe that was a live album, wasn't it?
That is correct, Dave. That was a live album.
Which is kind of really crazy for that era. That's kind of neat that it was a live. They were sounded that good that they could go live. You know, that's right. And that's what I read. That's pretty cool. Did not know that. Dave.
And you're absolutely correct. And to do a live album back at that time frame in the decade of the 60s, that was rather unique.
Yeah.
And it was kind of uncharted waters at that point in time in music. But the fact that they did record that album live was the introduction of more groups, both folk, rock, whatever, recording their albums live.
Huh.
Wow.
And Glenn Campbell.
Unbelievable.
Wow, I did not know that. That's a pretty cool fact.
Now, after the success of The Unicorn, Joe returned to the band. The album included the Irish tunes, The Orange and the Green, which is that's a great song too by the Irish Rovers, and of course the Black Velvet Band. That a beautiful song, and I still get a lot of requests. This song, the Black Velvet Band, Dave, and probably one of my most favorite of the Irish Rovers. It's a great waltz tune. You can really waltz beautifully to this.
I'm going to have to give it a listen.
And anytime I've played it at any of the Zoomer dances, fundraiser dances, weddings, the dance floor is full and the folks are doing a basic waltz to the Black Velvet Band. Amazing. And now Wilson's accordion, the little button accordion, I keep going back to the accordions, that his little button accordion has continued to be the signature sound of the Irish Rovers. Okay, their voices are good, but here's an instrument that has dominated and is so familiar with the sound of the Irish Rovers down through the many decades. How good is that?
It's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the way they...
Now, the Irish Rovers in the late 60s, they also performed on various North American television programs, which would include a short cameo appearance of the TV Western The Virginian. They also appeared on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
Okay, yeah.
They also appeared on the Mike Douglas Show. In fact, I remember that very well. In February of 1968 on the Mike Douglas Show, the Irish Rovers sang The Unicorn.
Oh.
And that, just from that show alone, boosted sales of The Unicorn right through the roof. It's a wonderful show. They also appeared on the Dating Game, The Pig and Whistle, and The Beachcombers.
Oh, wow.
So they got around.
Yeah, they did.
And in 1968, they were named the Folk Group of the Year by the predecessor of the Juno Awards. And in 1969, they received a Grammy nomination for Folk Performance of the Year. How good is that?
I had no clue. Yeah, I didn't know all this about the Irish Rovers. I think I should have talked to my father-in-law, Dan. You know, he's from Ireland, so I bet you he probably has a pretty good following. I should have probably got him to shoot me some facts about the Irish Rovers. Dan, I'm going to have to give you a call. Check in with you on the Irish
absolutely. Rovers. In the early 1980s, the group adjusted its style and began aiming itself towards the kind of country rock field, and they renamed themselves the Rovers. Mm-hmm. Now, the group scored a major international hit with Wasn't It a Party?
Yeah.
Great song by the Rovers, and also found success with the Christmas recording of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
I didn't know that either.
By the late 80s, the group had reverted to their original Irish Rovers branding, and that was good to see. Very good to see.
Hey, Randy, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I get the feeling from the stuff the little bit of research I did was that these guys really just loved hanging out together and making music. They seemed, a lot of their history was rooted in traditional Irish music, but they seemed to have that Irish flair for a few pints and enjoying the crowd. Is that true?
Very true. So very true, Dave. You've hit the nail right on the head with that.
So their makeup was that. Okay, good to know.
Absolutely. Yeah. In 1971, the Irish Rovers, and here we go into a little bit of television, they were offered their own CBC-produced television series, The Irish Rovers Show.
Huh.
Now, while entertaining a family audience, the show promoted Ireland and Irish music to North Americans. And some of the guest stars included the Clancy Brothers and...
Clancy
Brothers. I have a album here of the Clancy Brothers. There we go. Good Irish group of singers. Also, Tommy Makem, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Bobby Darin, Len Campbell, and our own little gal, Anne Murray from Canada. Yes. Also, visits from Sherry Lewis and her Muppets, including Lamb Chop. Mm-hmm. They were also audience favorites. Now, they were regularly taped visits also to Northern and Southern Ireland, also to Scotland, England, New Zealand, PEI, and Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and Banff. So they covered a good section, a good portion of Canada. Now, the Irish Rovers show, Dave, it ran for 7 years, winning an ACTRA award for the best variety performance. And brothers Will and George Millar, they co-wrote the majority of the original Irish compositions. How good is that?
Did not know that.
And almost most of their music focuses on the band's Irish roots. In the early 1980s, the Irish Rovers recorded an unknown novelty Christmas song, which we'd mentioned before, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and it rose to the top 20 in Canada within a week of airplay. Wow. And in 1980, their crossover hit that you had mentioned earlier in the broadcast, their hit recording of Wasn't That a Party? Wasn't That a Party? Yeah. It was inspired by the boys' own after-show partying and put them at the top of the charts again. How good is that? Here they're partying together, and they put together this song during their party, and they named it "Wasn't That a Party?"
Yeah, and worked.
That went triple platinum. 4 weeks after it was released here in Canada. That's Canada alone.
Yeah. Wow.
Not including the U.S. and UK and Ireland, and wow. So that's very, very good. And their third television series was entitled Party with the Rovers, and it ran from 1984 to 1986 with Jack Richardson as the musical director and Ken Gibson as the executive producer. Now, it's important to note that this show was set in a traditional pub setting, featuring music sessions with the band performing together with Liam Clancy, Tom Makem, John Allen Cameron, Kenny Rogers, Lonnie Donegan. He's the guy whose chewing gum lost its flavor over the bedpost overnight. Great song. If you haven't heard that before, take a listen. That's a great song. Good fun song. Also, they had performances Andy Gibb, Rita Coolidge, Ronnie Prophet, and many, many others, just to mention a few. So they're up there with the big names in music, and they're right with them. Now, the band members became Canadian citizens after Canada's Prime Minister at that time, the Right Honourable Pierre Elliott Trudeau, asked them to do so, to officially represent Canada around the world. And by 1989, they had represented Canada at 5 World Expos, including Montreal in 1967, Canada Centennial, Osaka, Japan in 1970. Okinawa, Japan in 1976, Vancouver 1986, and Brisbane, Australia 1988. Wow. And in recognition of their quarter century of contributions of Canadian music to the international music world, they were awarded Canada's top music honor, the Performing Rights Organization Harold Moon Award. And with their double album, the 25th Anniversary Collection in 1989, which featured the backing of the Chieftains and songs written, amongst others, by Randy Bachman, Bryan Adams, and Jim Vallance, the band was once again officially known as the Irish Rovers, and that is how we get to know the sequence and significance of the Irish Rovers. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, why do you think, why did they last so long? What do you think, what was that magic ingredient that they had that just like you said, that they were able to transition from Unicorn to Wasn't That a Party to Grandma Got Run Over by Reindeer. What was the magic there? Why do you think the Irish Rovers are so sustainable, and they're in our psyche a little bit? You know what I mean? Like when you hear their songs, you're always you feel the beat, you get into it. Why is that, Randy? What's so special about the Rovers?
Good question, Dave. Very good question. I think the Irish Rovers, I know there's a lot of good Irish bands out there. There's, as I'd mentioned, the Tommy Mayhem, there's the Abbey Tavern Singers, but the Irish Rovers, they had a unique Irish sound all in itself.
Yeah.
Their voices blended so well together. And here again, the signature instrument, the button accordion, and I truly believe in combination with their voices and the button accordion together added a unique Irish sound that even today cannot be duplicated. And I honestly believe that. Your thoughts, Dave?
I think, yeah, because I'm learning from you on this. But the one thing, my first thought is when I hear the name, the Irish Rovers, to be honest with you, I think fun. You know what I mean? I don't know why.
Yes.
It's just hearing their music, maybe my grandmother's when they played it. And it always was fun, lively music. So I think maybe that's where that visual I get of the Irish Rovers is just fun music, right? And it didn't seem like they really... they didn't take themselves too seriously. They just enjoyed making music from what I saw. You know what I mean? So it was I think that works. And to have that group be so sustainable for such a long period of time, right? That says something about the friendship there and the makeup of the group themselves, that they can do that. And, they were representing two countries, Ireland and Canada.
That's right, Dave. Absolutely correct.
That's really cool. I think that's really cool that they chose Canada to be their place, and that the music has been sustainable both here and there for all these years. It's funny. I'm so glad you brought it up because it's such a good St. Paddy's Day group to talk about. It makes March that much more enjoyable. And I'm going to take this time because St. Patrick's Day, a lot of people go out and have fun. Be responsible. Reminder: be responsible on St. Patrick's Day. And
that's right. And very true, Dave. Very true.
I think we do have to find you an accordion. I think that's just now it's in my head. So now I got to start looking because I got to hear Randy Helmo play accordion. I want to hear Randy Helmo do an Irish Rovers tune. It
wouldn't take me long to pick up, I'm sure.
I know. What makes, when you're DJing, like you said earlier about the Irish Rovers, is it? Can you tell early if you're going to have an Irish Rover request? I mean, obviously, if you're doing, it depends on the party you're doing. But are they one of those other ones? We've talked a lot about the bands that you just know you're probably going to get a request. Are they one of those bands?
Yeah, very true, Dave. On any given dance that I DJ, you're going to get a request for the Irish Rovers, and especially Wasn't That a Party? Now, the Unicorn. That's a good fun song, but it's not really what you would call a good dance song.
Right.
Wasn't That a Party? Great. So that'll fill the dance. That's what we call one of the automatic dance floor fillers in the industry. Wasn't That a Party? Guaranteed full dance floor. Also, the other one by the Irish Rovers, as I mentioned earlier, the Black Velvet Band. That is a phenomenal waltz tune. And anytime I played that, again, by the Irish Rovers, dance floor, automatic, guaranteed, full. Can't beat it.
Can't beat it, eh?
I've got some other information, Dave, just to conclude the broadcast. In 2015, the Irish Rovers filmed their own 50th anniversary live on St. Patrick's Day from Nanaimo, BC, in Canada. And it was Shaw Communications. They also filmed behind the scenes at the event for a music documentary titled The Irish Rovers 50th anniversary special. And it was broadcast nationally in Canada on Shaw Video on Demand in 2015 and 2016, just a few years ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
And the 2 DVD set, Live on St. Patrick's Day, which was filmed at the Port Theatre in Vancouver Island, on Vancouver Island, and Lismore, Ireland, was released in 2017. And all 3 television specials were released on DVD and may be rebroadcast down the road during the holiday seasons.
I didn't know that.
How good is that?
That's really cool.
That is really remarkable. Their 50th anniversary.
And it doesn't even seem like 50 years, does it? Like, that's when you said that. It was like, I had to go, really? They were around 50 years. But yeah, you're right. You start out in the 60s for sure.
And although the band has slowed down a bit, Dave, their touring schedule in their 50th year, they're slowing down a bit. But the release of the Irish Rovers 50 Years compilation album supported their Farewell to Roving tour, which will take a few years to complete. Now, in 2018, Wilson McDowell, I should say, he retired from touring. Of course, he was the button accordionist.
Yeah.
And so he was replaced by Maurice Crum. And of course, that left George Millar, which was the only remaining current member of the 1960s lineup. George Millar, he's still touring. Granted, their touring schedule is, it's special presentations here and there now.
Yeah.
And after the long tours are done, the band intends to continue recording and performing for only special events. And here you have it, folks. On vinyl, here's the Irish Rovers greatest hits.
Greatest hits. Look at that.
And that's a magnificent album. It's a 2-vinyl album. You can also get this on CD, and it includes many of the songs like The Unicorn. What else? Oh, Goodnight Irene's on here too.
Irene. There you go.
The Black Velvet Band, The Unicorn, of course.
Yeah.
Wasn't at a Party, The Orange and the Green, just to mention a few. And this is a dynamo double vinyl album of the Irish Rovers' greatest hits. If you haven't got it, be sure to get it.
Well, we'll just all come over to your place and we'll put it on and sit back on St. Paddy's Day and have a listen. Maybe that's what we all need to do, right?
And I think I could even offer you a green beer, too.
Green beer.
There, Dave. I'll check into the fridge there for a green beer.
This has been a lot of fun, Randy. I really appreciate you taking the time to bring me up to date, educate me on the Irish Rovers. Again, we got to remind everybody, enjoy St. Patrick's Day responsibly. Break out the green hats, the green shirts, and enjoy the day, folks. And Randy, thanks for bringing the Irish Rovers to the plate today. I really enjoyed this show. It was awesome, bud.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. I've really enjoyed working with you on the theme of the Irish Rovers and St. Paddy's Day coming up March the 17th. And we are going to go to the Savings of the Green on March the 17th.
Yeah, and I said the wrong date, so thanks for catching me on that. Wonderfully. All right. I guess I better figure out when St. Patrick's Day is. Sorry, Dan. It's my father-in-law. Sorry. Take care, Andy. We'll talk soon. Great doing the show today, and I'll see you in April.
Will do, Dave. Thanks very, very much. Take good care. We'll talk soon. Thank you.